NTA political leader Gary Griffith.
Good morning.
Do you think Watson Duke should be paid his pension?
I don't know.
You abstain. All right, that was our morning poll.
Gary have nothing to say about something? No, that's not Gary.
In fact, that's
somebody else.
Hold on.
Somebody else on the, get the real Gary from me now.
Wendell.
Don't you all go to the same gym anyway?
Wendell, does this qualify me to be in the PNM now? Or after hug up somebody as well?
No,
after hug up a fella and wine and
you very well know that photo was. You very well know that photo was photoshopped, right? I mean, you couldn't know that, but I could tell
PNM. There's the criteria to be in the PNM now?
Right arm, left arm.
I just asking a question politely.
No. I know you're just being.
It seems that that's the criteria.
Gary, I don't know if you all are aware, right? But NTA wouldn't be aware, but the UNC, I know for sure they're not aware that the PNM has been hosting successful family days for decades. And I'm telling you, it's one of the best. This particular family day was one of the best family days ever. The most.
You said the same thing last year.
No. I can.
You said that last year. I remember that.
I can only update it as the years go on. But I'm telling you, because I've been a part of it, this one was by far one of the best.
And let me go 1 year into the future. Say the same thing. Anyway, good morning. I see you're moving your NTA office from Port of Spain, Ryson Road, to somewhere in St. Joseph.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So it's at the corner of Mount Lambert Circle and Eastern Main Road. I think it was the appropriate thing. Who usually wins St. Joseph will win the election. I am the candidate for St. Joseph on an NTA ticket. It just happened that the member of parliament, he has an office in a little side road behind an alley, behind the priority where nobody could find him. If that is his way of not wanting to be accessible to the public, his style is different to mine. I can't fault him for that. But
are we speaking about the current MP here?
What's that?
Are you referring to the office of the current MP?
Yes, I am.
But he has more than one office.
Well, that is it. No, it has the member of parliament for St. Joseph, a little side corner in the back.
All of them have the same sign.
Yeah.
But an office in the middle of the community is not a bad thing, Gary. I don't know why you feel.
It's not. No, it is about accessibility. It is about making sure that it's easy for them to know where it is, how to get there. Putting it in a little side, that is PNM style. Put it somewhere where nobody could see, so you have less work to do. But mine is to be accessible and make sure.
I'm going to argue with you this morning, but I'm telling you that Terence Deyalsingh has been member of parliament for a long time. More than 8 years, actually. 10 years. So, and I know that he has more than one office. That much I can tell you. And if he has an office in a back road in the community, I don't make that the basis of where you put yours now.
I never said that. What I said is location. If I want to make myself accessible for people to have easy access to get to me, and you as a member of parliament would prefer to be somewhere where people cannot find it because you do not want to be at your office. You need to spend more time in your ministerial office because that's where the perks are. It shows why it is that I'm going to replace him in a few months.
All right, I ain't going to argue that. So you officially opened your office?
Yeah, well, yes, it opened Monday, but we're actually going to do an official opening and invite the media in a week or two.
Okay.
Yeah. How are things going with the NTA? I know you have been having certain town hall meetings. From time to time, I see you posting them up. Is it ramping up, or is it just on even pace in terms of how the NTA is reaching out to citizens?
Well, it's unlike other political parties, we don't have a rent a crowd. We don't bus in persons, and you see all different color band maxis that come in from the strategic hardcore locations of the political party, and they go into other areas. So the persons that attend our political meetings are persons who actually want to hear what it is that we have to offer. And the meetings have been very successful. What we continue to do is different to other political parties. We are not going to spend too much time ill speaking the others. I will continue to stress that the PNM have done a lot of work to help in the development of Trinidad and Tobago, likewise with the UNC. I think I heard a political leader on Monday and telling her supporters, this is time for us to fight. I do not know why political leaders feel that that politics is a war, that the other person is the enemy. It is not. And the reason I can say that is that nobody knows more about a war enemy than myself. I have fought armed conflicts, whether it was in Haiti, in the United Kingdom, in the attempted coup here. I'm the only politician that understands armed conflict. Let us stop trying to speak about the PNM being the enemy and the UNC being the enemy. That is not the way. So what we continue to do is to find solutions, try to show to the country we have a comprehensive roadmap towards the development of Trinidad and Tobago. We are not going into this campaign spending time to try demonizing the PNM or trying to say that we're better than anyone else. We're just trying to show that, look, this is what we can deliver. And I think that's what the country wants. The country is fed up of the nastiness, the bitterness. Every time we go on the platform, it's to bad talk and discredit the other political party. Our job and what we are doing in our campaign and our meetings is to show solutions.
Tell me something. I know there have been talks previously between the NTA and the UNC to some degree in terms of an alliance, but that seems to have kind of fractured to some degree. So is it that the NTA, I suppose my ultimate question is the NTA prepared to go it alone if necessary, or will it always be seeking an alliance with whomever is willing to, to partner with the NTA?
Yeah, well, we are definitely not. You see that bridge constituency, gentlemen, we are not here looking for a home, looking for a friend, looking for a wife. That's not what the bridge constituency is about. It started with the UNR in 1981. They went alone. It then went on to the NAR. They went alone at a time in 1991 when Kamala Prasad-Bissessar went up against the UNC as the NAR candidate. She wasn't seen as a dissident then, apparently. And then we had the COP in 2007 going alone. So we have seen that bridge constituency, they have gone alone. And so they are not desperate to have to find another partner. If it is that what we believe in, if you look at the name, we are an alliance. It's a transformational alliance. So if it is that there are other political parties that have the same principles, the ideologies of the NTA, we will be willing to have discussions with them. And we would have seen that alliance, political parties having that coalition will always get into government, whether it was in 1986 and 2010. So that is the objective. We are not going to be disrespected. We have seen that third constituency, that bridge constituency, we have virtually been used in 2010. And my job is not to go back and point fingers at what took place in the past, but to ensure that that bridge constituency must be respected. We are not going to go in an alliance with someone where in just August last year, we worked with you, we got 60,000 more votes than the PNM, which is for every 5 votes, 3 voted against the PNM. That was bad licks. And then a few months later, you're asking what we bring to the table, who are we, how many voters you have. It is not going to be an animal farm. And then after that bridge constituency reminded them by taking a seat that was a tie and turned it into a 600 defeat. So we know our worth. What we do decides the outcome of the election. Whether we go alone, whether we drop out, or whether we form an alliance. People criticize coalition governments. I know you're going to say that, Wendell. But over, I think, more than half of the countries in the world have had coalition governments before. Some presently have. Like some have worked, some have not worked. Likewise with governments going on their own. Some have worked, some have not worked. Our intention is to make sure we have a memorandum of agreement to ensure that bridge constituency, those 147,000 previous COP voters who are still alive and still here, and the young voters will understand that if we vote in an alliance, we are not going to have the same treatment that what took place in 2010 to 2015.
I'm not going to criticize coalition governments, but I'm going to make a bold prediction, and I've done it before, that all of those political parties that are opposed to the PNM will come together at some point in time before the elections to form one coalition or whatever you want to call it, alliance, whatever. Call it whatever you want. All going to come together, including yourself. Listen to what I'm saying. For the same reason that you all continue to espouse. Get rid of the PNM. Get rid of Keith Rowley. That is exactly what is going to happen. And it's going to fail again like it failed in 1986 and it failed in 2010. And that is, God forbid that it happens, that is what is going to happen again. And because when you listen to yourself and all the leaders of these other political parties, including the unions, it's all about getting rid of the PNM. We ain't talking about governance. We ain't talking about fixing these issues at all. It's about getting rid of the PNM because you all are so convinced that the PNM alone causing all these problems. This country made up of all these different people, including people from all these different parties.
Well, Wendell, strange enough, I agree with you to some extent. I am not, our job, you're not kidding, our job is to get rid of the PNM. When last you heard a political leader telling a prime minister, listen, you can't get it right. I have a track record as a security minister and a commissioner. I am willing to provide you with free advice, not pay me $50,000 a month like Stephen Williams, who denied it last year and then I agreed eventually. But say, look, I am willing to show and assist you to reduce crime. That is certainly not somebody who's saying I want to get rid of the PNM. That is my prime minister, that is my government at this time. My job and intention is not to sabotage or to destroy you. My job is to make sure that you can work. If it is that the PNM could do their job, I would not have been here. What I have seen, however, being as a commissioner of police, I have never seen such incompetence in my life. And it's something you have to admit. Even with this thing with the polygraph testing, you're pushing a polygraph test for police officers. But had I been the Minister of National Security, had I been the Prime Minister, I will lead by example and say, I am willing to be polygraphed. And if I am doing it, each or all of you all should do it. That is what is lacking, Wendell. Every single time that Keith Rowley and Fitzgerald Hines speak is the bad talk, the UNC or Gary Griffith. There's not, up to now, 9 years. Let's look at Patrick Manning's PNM. The man came with the OPVs, he came with the blimp, he came with sword. He did so much, and he had vision. Name one thing this government has done in national security other than say law abiding citizens.
Gary, you demonize Patrick Manning the same way. You call him a dictator. You call him Idi Amin. You call him all. I'm not saying you. I'm saying the opposition at the time. People are opposed to the PNM. Did the same thing to Manning.
All right.
Wendell, I was speaking about the NTA. You can't tell me about what the UNC is doing. I'm speaking about the NTA.
I'm speaking about people opposed to the PNM.
Yeah,
they all criticized Patrick Manning when he was doing his thing. They all call him a dictator.
I am speaking about myself. I am praising, I am commending Patrick Manning and the PNM's Patrick Manning. He had a vision. Now, as flawed as it was, at least he was willing to think out of the box. There's not been one thing this government has done in 10 years in national security other than to shut down, dismantle, and to remove. And they've done nothing to replace. It is total incompetence. All they put focus on is...
Gary, they put you as commissioner. Are you saying that was an incompetent decision too?
What's that? What was that?
You were put as commissioner of police under this government.
Well, all right. Let's look at it. It was the highest reduction in violent crime in 17 years. It was the highest public trust and confidence in the police in history, moving from 14 to 59%. After I left, it went down to 8%. 89% of the country wanted me to remain as commissioner, had no issue. Crime went down to the number 4 concern behind health, education, and the economy. And the public never felt so safe. What do you think?
So are you admitting that the government did something different and good during their tenure?
The reason they did that wasn't for the right reasons. The reason they did that is that you hope that Gary Griffith will be a vindictive person that will target political opponents. And when he realized that Gary Griffith's hand on the Bible is more relevant to me than somebody who appointed me, he was upset. Because they selected Gary Griffith not because they saw him as the best man for the job, you know. They figured this is the man. Because, and you know how you could confirm that? When you put $45 million into a police account, tell a commissioner, hire these foreign attorneys, make them SRPs, and these are the investigations involving political opponents. That is democratic dictatorship.
You know, you're making bold comments without a shred of evidence.
They have never denied it.
I know, but last time you did it. Last time you did it.
Wendell, they have never denied it. Wendell, they have never denied it.
Send the information, and it has not been forthcoming.
Wendell, they have never denied it. You want what? What do you want me to show you? The account?
No, you said you had conversation.
Kate McMahon came to Trinidad. How do you think she came here? On a maxi taxi? How do you think she was hired? 45 million went in. Do you think if I was stating that a government gave the police 45 million, told them to hire these people, make them SRPs, the government wouldn't say Gary Griffith is a liar? Don't you think so? So by you saying, well, you ain't show the evidence. So when Keith Rowley says Gary Griffith was involved in bad activity for firearms, I call him a blatant liar because he can't show any evidence. So I could call him out. Why can't they call me out? You know why? Because it is true. So try something else with that.
I'm not trying anything.
All right. Gary, what are your thoughts on former Commissioner Williams being a consultant for the TDPS?
I think it's unfortunate that people are condemning someone willing to provide support to the police service. Earl Christopher needs as much help as she can get. So Stephen Williams willing to provide some degree of advice, it can't hurt. So that is not my issue. My issue is when he was first asked by the media and he stated, no, he's not an advisor, it's not true. And you did not, in the same sentence, put a comment say, however, I am a consultant being paid $50,000 a month. He didn't say that. So he played with words, tomato, tomato. I'm not an advisor, but I didn't tell you I was a consultant. You know exactly where the media was going. So because they didn't use the word consultant, you said, well, no. You asked me if I was an advisor, so I told you no. That is where ethics come in. And I think Earl Christopher should have cleared the air since then. The two of them stayed quiet. And it says a lot about them. Because had I done this and they asked me, I would have said, no, I'm not an advisor. However, I am a consultant. They refused to do so. So I think it doesn't look good on both of their parts at all. It looks like they were trying to hide it. That's one. Two.
I'm in agreement with that, simply because something like that can't be hidden. The fact that someone is being paid with state funds can't be hidden.
Yeah, correct. And then two, well, $45 million going into the police account. Unless I exposed it, it was going to be hidden as well. So you never know in this government.
No, but it's there. It's on the book. If somebody asks the right questions, it's there.
That's right.
To be found.
Correct. Now, the second part, however, is that Stephen Williams coming in there is a big problem, Wendell, and you will know it being there in being a part of an administration. Consultancy and advisors is the easiest way to give your partner, your friend, something, and he doesn't have the qualification or training because there's not a check and balance to say for you to be an advisor or a consultant, you must have this threshold to be eligible to have that post. So somebody could have just been a police constable and all of a sudden they make you the security advisor in the Ministry of Health and get $50,000 a month. There's nothing stops it. And that's what the ministers have the authority to do. And the commissioner and most persons in the state boards.
Let's go with that, with the last one.
Well, the first one with the lie detector, I was the first person who introduced it as the commissioner of police. And thanks to Keith Rowley and company, when I was no longer there, those things no longer exist, just like the body cameras that I made it mandatory. And thanks to Keith Rowley, he preferred to have commissioners where they didn't want to make it mandatory to use the body cameras. That is the incompetence of the chair of the National Security Council, who speaks about it more than him saying he's the prime minister. So when it is that I utilize the body cameras was to ensure that police officers will not be wrongfully accused, but it could be also admissible in court and it can prevent abuse of authority. That is where we had the standard operational procedure. If you don't use it, you will be disciplined. And then likewise with the polygraph testing, it was the first time that we actually had polygraph testing done in the police service, and it was an issue. So the Welfare Association and myself had a little sparring session because they had issues with me utilizing the polygraph test. The polygraph test, however, it is not admissible in court. It is not foolproof. You can't discipline someone. You cannot fire someone. So there are shortcomings for obvious reasons. However, when I did the research, it can be used for specific units. If you want to get into a unit, like for example, a special branch or SWOT, you need to be polygraph tested. So we can prevent you from getting into a unit. What I also did was persons in the Southwestern Peninsula, we were told that there was a lot of concerns of police officers allowing illegal entry of weapons, drugs, human trafficking. So I asked a simple question: are you involved in aiding and abetting, financially benefiting from criminal activity? Those who refuse to be polygraph tested, I can reassign them, and that was done. Likewise, if it is that we had covert operators, which also was put an end to thanks to this administration, so that we had undercover officers pinpointing rogue police officers who were able to reassign them. All of these things have been removed. So the polygraph test has some degree of relevance. It cannot be admissible in court. There are shortcomings. Somebody could have asthma on the day. You could be in traffic. You could have a problem at home, and it can trigger the wrong response. However, it is of value. My concern, however, more than anything else, is the lack of leadership by example. I could never be a minister of national security, a prime minister, and I'm telling 7,000 people to do something I'm not prepared to do myself, which is why I am challenging all political leaders. Let us all be polygraphed. And simple questions. Are you involved in aiding and abetting in criminal activity? Have you financially benefited from criminal activity, whether it be firearms or getting state material that I've utilized on my own? Have you been involved in turning a blind eye to allow persons to financially benefit from crime? Why would any political leader or politician not want to be polygraphed? My point is leadership by example or lack of. If it is you want the police to be polygraphed, be prepared to do so yourself. Let me also add, Steve, a very important point is the way that we are politically compromised in this country, because it seems that everybody is either PNM or UNC or an NTA. And with that, it involves the SSA as well. For a prime minister to boast that he knew what took place in a polygraph test, it shows how compromised that is, because that person obviously is a PNM who was whisper, hey, I have something up with Gary. Even though it was a lie, at no time did I ever pull any wires. I was fully polygraphed, and the reason I could confirm that is that I came first in that exam after being polygraphed, getting 94%, 20% more than the PNM's Zilla Christopher. So I was fully polygraphed. I also did my polygraph in the United States by a qualified expert who is not biased, and that is where the concern lies, where if the SSA has now become so politically compromised that they can give politicians information, albeit lies. And again, let me also add, when a Minister of National Security says, how, Gary Griffith, you will know what the questions should be. Because I was head of the Defense Force Intelligence Unit, I was the representative for the Defense Force in the Joint Operational Command Center. I attended the best military academy in the world. I spent 17 years in the Defense Force. I was a security minister, a security advisor, and a commissioner of police. So I know the questions that are asked in a polygraph test. Not asking if my mother, who died 11 years ago, if she had any relationship before my father and all of that. So you know the bacchanal questions that were being directed before the polygraph even started, which is why I realized this is not what a polygraph test is about. So Fitzgerald Hines, the reason I know and you don't know is because I am qualified in law enforcement at a senior level and you are not.
Gary, tell me something. The NTA, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know. It does it as a party comment or give their opinion on legislation. Obviously, you're not in Parliament, but you are seeking to be in Parliament. So in terms of what we're asking you about this morning, the legislation that was passed with regard to the lie detectors, etc., but you also had the whistleblower legislation, which the UNC, except for one, did not support. Does the NTA in its meetings articulate positions on legislation and where they view whether legislation is correct or not?
Oh, definitely. A number of legislative matters we have discussed and we have given our view. Unfortunately, we will not have that degree of media relevance because we are not in Parliament. But, and again, the polygraph test is a perfect example. 41 civilians go into Parliament to make a decision without the input of the Welfare Association or the police service. That says a lot, because you're civilians, you're not trained or qualified or have the experience in law enforcement. So you make a decision because you figure it's a good thing because the police corrupt. And it is a small percentage. There's no police service in the world that doesn't have corrupt elements. So we must always find avenues to weed it out, which is why I put the body cameras, which is why I use the polygraph testing, which is why I had the 482 Gary, the online reporting, the police app, all of the things that were totally removed because of incompetence and not understanding 21st century policing. So we have definitely made comments, and the polygraph testing I've just done so. I have shown many things that were not discussed in Parliament because you have 41 civilians not understanding law enforcement. So what they do, they go on Google, they get some information and say, right, let's polygraph police officers. Gentlemen, this is going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars per annum. And are we going to, is there a cost-benefit analysis you're going to get for it? Hardly likely, because as I said, it's not, you can't discipline the person, you can't fire them, you can't suspend them. So on what grounds would you be able to take any action? We do polygraph testing for all persons to get into the police service. And we do polygraph testing for all persons who are going into an elite unit. So to try to polygraph all police officers across the board, and then what is it you're going to do? You're not going to get anywhere. So because, as I said, it's not even admissible in court. So we have to be very careful when we come up with these ideas. But as I said, if you're in Parliament and you're making this recommendation for the police officer who you command, be prepared to ask. And I will ask simple questions. Have you ever been involved in trying to harass a commissioner to get 13 firearm licenses for people I know? Did you harass a commissioner to get a firearm dealership for a friend in Tobago to sell hundreds of more weapons, even though you had a problem with firearms? Did you have try to influence a commissioner of police and a director of the SSA to be able to appoint a junior constable to have the full access to intercept equipment? Did you meet a junior constable in the diplomatic center and to find out information about legal firearms, and now she got a high post? Those are the type of questions that should be asked, and you should be willing to be polygraphed. I am willing to be polygraphed on anything at any time as it pertains to criminal activity, unethical behavior. I am asking that all political leaders be prepared to do the same. Failure to do so, it will show that you are afraid and you are not prepared to face the truth.
I get, and you may be making some very valid points there about the non-consultation with the Police Welfare Association, which Gideon has already articulated on. But what I'm wondering is if you are privy to the legislation and you would know what is coming up on the parliamentary docket, and you would have access to a lot of these draft bills, because generally they are public before they're actually debated in Parliament, by and large, maybe not always, but by and large. I'm more talking about the proactive side of it. You obviously have strong opinions on whether that is workable or not, whether that was articulated strongly before rather than post the fact. Because if legislation is concerning to you in terms of a political leader of a party, shouldn't it be articulated before it is passed?
Before and after, because remember, whilst it is being debated in Parliament, more things will come out and you can see the direction in which they are going. So, for example, the whistleblower legislation, excellent piece of legislation and face value. But then again, if you look at the delicate matters of it, if, for example, you have somebody who's abroad and that person is going to give evidence, but he cannot be cross-examined by the person who he's accusing, because and you want to protect the person, what is to stop the politicians from paying this person big money to lie, and now he can pad information, pad statements, and not be cross-examined by the person who's being accused. So all of these things we have to be very careful, because we have seen what has happened in this administration. It's only in a banana republic that politicians will hire civilians, pay them big money, call them investigators, let them do a report, and then you want to hide in Parliament like a coward to read it out, because you don't want to go out in public, because you know you'll be sued for lying. That is the state we have reached in this country, where politicians have now become persons who appoint investigators and to try to override the work of the police. That, when I continue to speak about democratic dictatorship, that is the problem. So the whistleblower legislation could very well turn into the same avenue, where you can handpick someone, influence them, pay them, keep them abroad, let them give information, and now it can be questioned or cross-examined because you're trying to protect them, but really and truly you want them to pump the information to target your political opponents. And as I said, we have seen it. We have seen it with, it is only in a banana republic that politicians will put 45 million TT into a police account, say these are the people to be hired, and you have to make them SRP so they can investigate and then arrest immediately of political opponents.
Well, I mean, the issue of the whistleblower legislation, and that's the point I was making, that that leaders that are aspiring to office should have opinions, and should have opinions about legislation that is going to tackle whatever, and whether you think it's correct legislation before it's passed. We should be, and I'm not zoning in just on you. I think this also holds for Michaela Pandey in terms of her party, because you are aspiring to. So it gives credentials to the citizenry listening that this party has an interest in, that they have an opinion on what legislation is going to be for Parliament. Obviously, you're not in Parliament, and obviously, maybe you may not get as much media play on it, but you will get some, because you are who you are, and Michaela is who she is. I'm just using two of you all as an example.
No, I agree with you, but as I said, sometimes you look at the document and its face value, and you don't know the direction that they intend to go. Because so you might very well say whistleblower legislation, very good. And then when you realize this is an avenue deliberately assigned to find somebody new up in the States, let them send a report, let them pad some evidence, and then after the person being accused. So you have to be careful. You don't want to make a statement on face value to support something, and then when you see the direction they go in Parliament, you realize, oh, so that's a game plan. I realize where you're going with this. So that's why sometimes it's good to listen to what is the direction in Parliament. And that's why, likewise, the opposition wouldn't make statements pertaining to a bill before it goes in Parliament, because you don't know the direction the government is going. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done, but so you could give a generalized statement of an initial bill. I mean, I will always continue to be very concerned about this the bill as it pertains to persons with firearms, when somebody can have an automatic firearm and be given bail within just a few hours, and then when it is you in opposition, you're fighting and agreeing that should happen. But when you're in government, you're saying no, we want to make sure that we have this legislation to make sure that as soon as somebody is caught with a firearm, and it goes both ways, because even when I made that recommendation to amend the Terrorist Act, when somebody with an assault weapon that can kill 35 persons in 3 seconds, that person should be deemed a terrorist. And if so, it means he should not get bail and it be deemed a capital offense, be incarcerated for 25 years. The Prime Minister jumped and said, Gary Griffith wants every criminal to be deemed a terrorist, which was a lie. I never said that. I was trying to target the problem that exists that has contributed to almost 100% of murders by firearms, which would have been illegal firearms. And especially now what we're seeing is mass shootings based on automatic weapons.
I don't know if you were watching the show a little earlier, and when we played the clip of the murders in Tobago that was on news last night, clip courtesy TV6.
No murders, Richard, not murders.
It wasn't murder. Sorry, they were shot at. 4 people were shot at in Tobago, not murders. Thanks for the correction, Wendell.
Those to interrupt you to correct.
Those stag bottles, they use stag bottles and carrot bottles, etc., to identify. Well, you're seeing the clip there. What's your take on that as a former commissioner of police?
Well, what do you mean? As it pertains to what? I mean, obviously, it's a crime.
Mark where I assume the ammunition is on the ground. I assume that's what it's meant.
The shell casings were on the ground and they marked it with empty beer bottles.
Well, maybe at the time they were just trying to. It shouldn't have been moved in the first place until the actual investigators stood up. But again, it goes back going to the problems in Tobago. This has increased in Tobago. We have heard that they are trying to lift the standard of policing in Tobago. We've seen about the plan for a THA police unit, which I welcome. And I'll tell you why. Because as we never know, there's a municipal police in Trinidad. There's not equivalent to that in Tobago. So by the plan of having a THA police unit, this equates with the municipal police in Trinidad. That has been very valuable because it helps the mayors, the chairman, the regional corporation, councillors in having some degree of interaction with the police by having their own unit to deal with parking, traffic congestion, looking into issues of crowds, dealing with the market patrol. And Tobago doesn't have that. The problem that is going to exist with this new THA police unit in Tobago is whereas the municipal police did not have that immediate interaction with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and sometimes there was duplication of effort, competition, one hand not doing what the other is doing. I try my best to bridge that gap. They must ensure that this new police unit must not do the same as what happened. We saw with the municipal police and the TTPS in Trinidad. There must be some degree of synergy, understanding, relationship, mutual relationship, I should say. And by doing that, it will increase the possibility of that new unit being of any value. The concerns with Tobago obviously lies with what is happening of the migration of criminal activity from Trinidad to Tobago. It can't take by persons walking through a walk-through scanner to get on the boat, but a car could go through and it's not being properly checked. We have the K9, we have the mobile scanners that also were shut down and removed after I left office. These are the things that must be put in place to ensure that every vehicle that leaves Trinidad gets to Tobago. We are not having any migration of weapons, drugs, and criminal activity into Tobago. That is what is going to increase the standard of policing in Tobago. So the carrot bottle is just a drop in comparison to what should be done to improve Tobago policing. And let me also add, it is madness that if you're in Tobago, you call 999, that number goes to the St. James Barracks, to the 999 center in Trinidad, and then they will send it back to a police station in Tobago. By that time, the crime has been committed and the guy is already home. There must be, so these are the things that we had in place and they've all been shut down. The importance of a national operations center, covert operative unit, these are the things that will increase the standard of policing in Tobago.
How concerned should Trinidad and Tobago be about the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, I think is what they're called, which is now considered one of the most influential gangs in Latin America? I think they are now recently causing havoc in Chile, and their recent reports are they are now in the United States, and they're saying that they cause havoc in all of the countries in South America where they go. How concerned should we be? I don't know if they are already here or not. What's your sense of it and how the state is dealing with it? And should the state be vigilant about that Venezuelan gang?
Well, definitely. I mean, it started with the ridiculous concept that every Venezuelan come to Queen's Park Oval and let us regularize you to make sure that you can remain here without being deported. There was no background check, nothing done. You turn up with your ID, you turn up to show who you are, and bam, you can stay. We automatically gave possible criminal elements in Venezuela get out of jail free card. And I'm not saying that we should not have been compassionate because we understood what was going on in Venezuela at the time. But we opened the Pandora's box without a proper due diligence to ascertain whether who should stay and who should go. And the hypocrisy I see of this, I will mention, is that I don't know if people, if you all are aware, I said it on several occasions, and likewise, Richard, when we make comments because we're not in Parliament, we have over 120,000 illegal immigrants in this country. And when people say, well, Gary is exaggerating, I'm speaking about persons who have entered through the legitimate ports of entry. 120,000. That was when I was Minister of National Security. The number could have probably increased. So this is almost like 20% of our adult population working force. And these individuals, they come in here, and this comes from persons from Africa, Asia, the Philippines, China, India. Sorry, I said Asia already. The CARICOM, Latin America, and with it, these persons, they are allowed access, such as CARICOM, for example, where you can enter for 6 months and you don't come back out. What happens here is a byproduct of crime, because these individuals now, they can't get a job because they have overstayed their time. They can't get a proper work permit because they've overstayed their time. They are now going to either be unemployed, which will be a threat, a burden to the national security. They will be utilizing our health, education, security systems, everything. And with it now, they will either turn to a life of crime to become a gang member because they are unemployed. And instead, when I put as a Minister of National Security a 3-month moratorium to ensure that all these persons can now be eligible to remain here, we can register them, we can monitor them, we can regularize them, it would have injected over 2 billion TT into the economy by these persons paying taxes. It would have also eliminated the problem of human trafficking or greatly minimized it, because employers take advantage of these individuals because they know that you are here illegally, you can't report me to the state because I'm paying you below the minimum wage, you're working in atrocious conditions. That is a byproduct of human trafficking. Because they removed the moratorium, because Gary Griffith implemented it, we have now over 100,000 people here illegally. And as I said, if they are not unemployed, they will turn to crime. That is the big concern as it pertains to the byproduct of criminal activity by persons entering here and remaining illegally.
Yeah.
Sorry. Are we at the end, Richard?
Well, pretty much. I wanted quickly, Gary, in 2 minutes, to talk about your ultimatum to the UNC.
Well, it's definitely not an ultimatum. As I said when we started, the NTA, just like when they call it the COP, the NAR, the ONR, 5 years time it might be XYZ. We are a bridge constituency that are not here to work for the PNM, to split votes to help the PNM, or work for the UNC to get them in government. I think that has always been the problem. We intend to make sure that there's a proper design for good governance. So if we are to form any type of strategic alliance with anyone, it must be within the common goals of what we intend to have. Obviously, there are certain things that will be non-negotiable, so just as how I operated as a Minister of National Security with live sport, and how I operated as a Commissioner of Police when it is I saw criminal activity taking place and even government ministers being arrested. I am not going to turn a blind eye to any type of wrongdoing. So persons will not be allowed to build police stations if they are gang members. Persons will not be allowed to have state contracts if you're a gang member. So there are certain things that will be non-negotiable. That if there are persons that are willing to operate in that type of principle, then they can work with us. If not, we intend to do what we have to do, which we are a political party that will take part in a general election.
And would you be going up for 41 seats?
We are not too sure as yet. Definitely we'll be going up. We are looking at the marginals at this time and other seats. So as it go along, we will confirm the seat allocation, whether it's all 41, whether it will be strategic locations that we believe we have a good chance to win. Yes, Randall, you're saying?
Yeah, Gary, I want to tell you, right? I supported your bid as Commissioner of Police because I thought you coming in there outside of the police service would have made a difference. And I think you did. I continue to say that I think you did well as a Commissioner of Police and as a politician. But your dislike for one person can't alter your being and your hard work in such an extent that we reach in this stage.
Okay, if I could just explain, Wendell. No, again, I have no hatred or bitterness for Keith Rowley. people don't know. I know the man inside. I worked with him as a minister. When I was a minister, I will be the only person sitting down having lunch with him because remember he was an anti-Manning boy. So I have no problem with Keith Rowley. Keith Rowley he really cares about the country. That's my personal view. His bitterness for as soon as you put those three letters together, he's the one who gets unhinged. He hates the UNC, and that's why he trips and his head starts going like this. He gets upset, whatever his reason. My concern with Keith Rowley is that you can't just automatically try because the person doesn't openly, everything that you say, people must openly support you. So, and if it went there that if I had a problem with Keith Rowley, I would not have offered to help him. So what you have said is totally incorrect. That's the way I was brought up. If somebody is speaking, I do not interrupt. What you are doing is similar to Pablo. Yes, I'm speaking and you don't like the direction in which I'm going and you're interrupting me. I speak and you're doing it again. And that is my concern. You can say what you want. When you speak, I will not speak. When I am speaking, you do not interrupt. You can't be a professional host. And when somebody is speaking, you do not like what they're saying and you try to interrupt to try to skew what it is. That's what. So it has nothing to do with me being upset with what you're saying. If I'm speaking, don't interrupt it. That's the way my parents brought me up. I'm sorry.
Gary, thank you so much for being on the show.